Hey guys, it's Marta. Hello, welcome to the August garden. Today I wanted to talk about hydrangeas. I will show you hydrangeas Annabelle, hydrangeas Paniculata, so limelight and vanilla fraise. I will talk about how are they doing this August, and I will show you how to dry their flowers. Let's begin. Today I wanted to talk about the hydrangea season this year. In my country we had a lot of extreme temperatures, but I think if you live anywhere, this year was really hot for our planet. So I wanted to talk about how did the plants do, how did they deal with the extreme heat. Our summer in Poland was extremely hot. I can't remember such a hot summer and such lack of moisture because we didn't get as much rain as we usually do. So I had to be really focused on my hydrangeas. I've seen them drooping their leaves. I've seen the lack of moisture. So we had to supplement the water throughout the season, especially paniculatas that I find really hard. Not the problematic plants in my garden. I've seen the lack of moisture impact the flowers' behavior, the plants' behavior. They were drooping their leaves. I've seen the problems with flower formation, especially the lack of moisture and the cold spring that we had. They had problem with getting the nutrients, and then there were problems with forming the flowers. So I was like, this year I was scanning my plants all summer long and on spring long and seeing different behavior than in the previous years. But I will get the conclusions from that and I will act differently next year. I'll talk about it in a second, but first of all, I wanted to talk about hydrangeas. For those of you that do not have those flowers, I like to show my plants throughout the season so people who are just planning to have some plants can see how they behave in different months. This gives you like the idea how they will look like in your garden in a few years. So Annabelles usually start with white flowers, but then they become this lovely lime green, and I love this color really, but some people are surprised. What happened to my flowers? They were white, why are they getting green? Is it some kind of sickness? No, this is how they just behave. So this year I got a lot of messages from people that were saying that their hydrangeas did not act as they used to, or they had smaller flowers, or the flowers were not developed properly. They were mostly messages from my country, but we all had the same weather, strange weather for us. So I've seen that mostly on my new hydrangeas paniculatas and also the new Annabelles, that they were just planted in the fall or in spring, and they were not that happy. They were drooping their leaves, the flowers were smaller, they were trying to, the stems were too long. So I've seen that the lack of moisture, and sometimes when there's lack of moisture, the lack of sunlight also made them more vulnerable. So the flowers were smaller and sometimes they were not properly developed. So note to myself, for next year, I really need to be diligent to go to my hydrangeas from the beginning of spring and make sure they have enough moisture. So, and it's better to give them moisture, not every day, a little bit, but I will give them moisture like in every 5 to 7 days, but quite a lot. So they will go with their roots deeper, and then they will make sure that they get constant moisture, because when plants have shallow roots, it's very difficult for them to live through the time of drought. Why I talk about observing your plants? Here you can see an example. I've shown you these hydrangeas in the video, and I told you I had a problem with moisture. And after the video, I was like, I need to give them more water. So I started prolonging the time of the sprinklers, which give them water. And I've prolonged it for 10 minutes more every day. And this was a really good idea because they recuperated, they looked better after a week. And they made some more flowers and they are looking much more healthy than they did in the beginning of summer. I talk about it because I think it's good for a new gardener to know that it's good to observe your plants and it's good to take notes, because after a month or two you will not remember what happened. There are a lot of plants, and if we have notes for our plants, what happened, was the watering good, was the fertilizing good, why did the plant have problems, was it a pest, was it some kind of neighbor like a birch that gave the problems, and then next year you will be armed with new knowledge about your plants, and you will be able to act in a good way to make them happy. Next subject is hydrangea supports, especially ANABELLE's, because with paniculatas you don't really need supports. Sometimes you might. I will tell you about that in a second. But with ANABELLE's, they have a huge tendency to flop. If they have so many flowers and you get a lot of rain, you will definitely have flopping plants. So I've been using different supports over the years, and this year I've been trying the new ones that are those bendable sticks, and I think they worked best of all of my supports. I've had like 2 or 3 flowers that snapped. Most of them, they have been moving, so it's very bendable and I really like it. Next year I will be just using the longer ones. They will be taller and I will do sections of them. I will show you that in spring how I do it, but it really worked. We have a lot of them still standing, which I'm really happy about. As you know, I've talked about this in previous videos. This is my main concern with ANABELLE's, because when we get a storm, it can be a huge one. And if they snap, that's the end. But this year, I'm really happy about them. When I started giving my hydrangeas more water, my Hydrangeas grasses also got more water. And I was really surprised, because I thought the amount of water for them was fine. But when they got more moisture, they started growing like crazy, which I'm really happy about, because this is a grass that grows really slowly and you can see the full potential after a few years. But this year they are really growing, and I've really seen the bump in the growth after I gave them more moisture. So I think this is also a good thing to remember, that this kind of grass really likes a semi-shade position and quite a lot of water. Have you ever wanted to prolong the life of your hydrangeas? You don't want them to get brown, as it will become obvious in the fall. They will just become brown. If you want them to stay this way, this is the perfect moment to dry them. When they become lime green, this process is super easy. You just cut the stem of the hydrangea, you take off all the leaves, and you put the stem in a bottle of water that has just like 2-3 centimeters of water. You put it in your house, somewhere that the sunlight doesn't reach the flowers, and you let them be, and they will just dry. You can make arrangements. I do it on my fireplace. I do arrangements with my hydrangeas. They just dry there and they stay this way. I've had some that were like 3 years old and they still have the same color. It might bleach a little bit over the years, but the color will stay the same. If you leave them in the garden, the more the cold it will get, they will become brown. So prolonging the color now is the best idea, because when they are super white, it is very difficult to make them stay hydrated. There are some ways you can do it, but it's definitely easier when they are lime green. Okay, enough about ANABELLE's. Now let's talk about hydrangeas paniculatas. I have them over there. These hydrangeas paniculatas have been in this garden for 2 years. I've planted them in the spring last year, and they have been performing incredibly from the beginning of their life. They were bare root, and I really think the material was incredibly good, and also this space is perfect for hydrangeas. So they get around 9 or 10 hours of sunlight here. They are in full sun all day long. They have constant moisture, because this space in our garden has always had a lot of moisture. I've had problem with yew. The yew was always sick here because it was too wet for it. So I've decided to remove them and plant them in other spaces in my garden, and I planted hydrangeas here, and they are loving this space. These plants, I would say, are overachievers. They are very young, so they should have few flowers. They should, they should be taking it slowly, but they want to show what they can do. The problem is the flowers are huge. The stems are thick, and I'm happy about the stems, but the amount of flowers is really not for such a young plant, that the root system is not developed properly. So I think there is a problem with when there is a huge storm, and we also have a gate here, and the flowers are flopping a bit because they are so heavy. And last time we were coming back from our holidays, there was a huge storm. The gate opened, and most of the flowers were bent that way, and the gate took them. Ugh. I was about to cry when I saw that. They are still alive, but they are lying there, and I'm thinking what to do to make them more upright, to still have this incredible view. But most of them are fine. They are looking beautiful, but I think I will cut back on the fertilizing them next year a bit, so the root system can get a bit stronger, because the amount of flowers was really surprising. I've never had hydrangeas that would perform so good. But maybe the flowers are just a bit too heavy for such young plants. So if you're thinking about a row of limelight like I have here, give them a lot of sunlight, give them a lot of moisture, and I think they will be really happy. I just love it. It's so much better than the yew. I don't know why I was so focused on having the yew hedge here, but definitely I love them. I love those flowers. If you're thinking about drying your hydrangeas paniculatas, wait a bit more, because wait for the moment when they get a lot of pink blush, or they are getting pink. It's better because in this stage of the petals they will dry more easily. So doing the same as I said with Annabelles, put them in a bottle of water, it's like an inch of water, put the stem in the water and just don't do anything, just don't give it sunlight, leave it in a cool, dry space, and they will just dry beautifully. You can also do a wreath from them. I will link a video from last year. It's in Polish, but you can just see how I do it, how I've done a beautiful wreath for my front door from hydrangeas. It looked really beautiful. I think you'll like it. Okay guys, please let me know in the comments what are your thoughts on this season with your hydrangeas. Was it good? Was it bad? What went well? What went wrong? Please give me your thoughts in the comments. Today's I'll be finishing. Thank God it's a bit cooler, because we had like a heat wave this whole week, and I'm really happy about the weather getting a bit cooler. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.